Hey everybody, I wanted to make a new video showing you a bunch of Beatles stuff that I found, actually Beatle vinyl, and here we go. First things first, I finally got my hands on something I really wanted for a long time. This is an original 45 picture sleeve of Strawberry Fields Forever and Penny Lane single, released in 1967. And it's got some writing up here, which is a drag, but other than that, it's in really, really good shape. So there's the front. And then there is the back. And then here is the actual record itself. Penny Lane, backed with Strawberry Fields on the Parlophone label. And this is definitely one of the greatest singles of all time, and probably my favorite Beatles single. So I was really happy to pick this up and yeah, add this to the collection. So this will not be going in the jukebox. I'm going to try to keep it in the best shape I can. So that's Strawberry Fields Penny Lane single. Then I picked up this Beatles single. This is the American release. This is Can't Buy Me Love, backed with You Can't Do That. And I really bought it for the B-side, You Can't Do That, because I want to put that in my jukebox. And this 45 isn't in the best of shape. It's okay. But there's You Can't Do That. There's Can't Buy Me Love side. And the Can't Buy Me Love side has kind of a, I don't know if you can see it there. There it is. You can kind of see there's a kind of a pretty good scratch running through it. But actually I played it on one of my just like tester. I had like a, it's not a Crosley, but it's like a Crosley that I test my 45s on just to see how they sound before I put them in the jukebox. And it played fine without, the scratch didn't really, you couldn't really notice it. So happy to pick this up. That's Can't Buy Me Love, You Can't Do That, 45. I got my phone here, let me put it to the side. Now here's something weird that my friend Casey gave to me, and it's in this sleeve here, but I'll take it out. This is a flexi disc, and this is an interview the Beatles did. It says interview at the Hilton Hotel in London. It's in German. It's from a German interviewer, and this plays at 33 and a third. I listened to it. It's nothing amazing, but you got a lot of, it's basically Paul, George, and Ringo, but mainly Paul, and they're talking in German for most of the interview. So I don't know much about this, so maybe some of you might know a little bit about this. It's kind of, someone constructed this themselves. I'm sure this came in like a magazine or something, and then they added this like thing on the back here to make it a little bit more sturdy, but it's really cool. I've never heard it before, and it was really interesting to get this. So kind of a weird little oddity there in my Beatle collection. I'll put it back in there. And then, I don't know, this is, I guess someone was trying to sell this at one point. They were trying to sell it for 40 bucks. Good luck with that. Okay, now onto some LPs. I finally got this added to my collection. This is an upgrade from me. This is Beatles 6, and this is a stereo version, and it's on Capitol Records. And this is an original pressing, and it comes with the original paper inner sleeve here, which is on Capitol. And of course, since it's original, it's on the Rainbow label. There's side 1, and there's side 2. And Beatles 6 has always been one of my favorite of the Capitol albums. When I was really first starting getting into the Beatles around the age about probably like 9 or 10, I remember my dad always talked about Beatles 6 as one of his favorite Beatle albums. And I was always confused because at the time I only knew about the Beatles, the CDs, which are all the UK albums, of course, so there was no Beatles 6. I was like, Beatles 6? And he's like, yeah, it's like a combination of like Beatles for Sale and Help, which it is. And it is a really cool album, so I was really happy to get this in stereo. I have a mono, original mono, and now I have an original stereo, so I'm really happy about that. Okay, then I picked this up. This is Meet the Beatles. Again, this is a Capitol American version. But this is on the purple label. which, as a lot of you know, I am collecting. And there's side 1, there's side 2, and this sounds really, really good. I mean, it's the American version, so the American mixes that were kind of tampered with by Dave Dexter Jr. He added the reverb and stuff to it. But it sounds really good, and it's, I don't know if it's mastered by Wally or not, because I can't find his signature on the inner groove. So I don't think it's mastered by Wally, but it still really sounds really, really good. So I was happy to pick this one up. And again, this is a stereo pressing. So that's Meet the Beatles. Then this is another thing I've been really looking for quite a long time, although it's pretty common. This is Hey Jude. Again, this is another US release. This is a compilation. This time on Apple Records. There's the back. But this one is cool because this, instead of saying Hey Jude on it, this says The Beatles Again, which was, I don't know the exact story, but I think originally this album was going to be called The Beatles Again and not Hey Jude. And then they changed it at the last minute, but some of the labels came out with The Beatles Again. And I'm sure you can see that there on the label. So I have a bunch of different pressings of the Hey Jude album, but I don't have any with it saying The Beatles Again. So I picked this one up. The actual record isn't in the best shape, but it sounds okay. Listen to it. It's just that normal, the very generic sounding Hey Jude or whatever. It's pressed by Bell Sound, which also did the Let It Be album and a lot of the early like John Lennon albums, and like All Things Must Pass was pressed with Bell Sound by Bell Sound. So I was happy to get this and add it to the collection. The Beatles Again, or Hey Jude. So put that back in here. And I got this one for $4. I found this in like a sale bin at one of my record stores, and yeah, I got it just because it said The Beatles Again, so there you go. Now here's a bit of an oddity. This was loaned to me by my friend Casey, who owns the record store that I get a lot of stuff from. This is Beatles' second album, but this is a German pressing on the Odeon label. And it's pretty much, well, not pretty much, it is identical to the US Beatles' second album release on Capitol. It doesn't, to me, normally a German pressings sound really, really good. This doesn't sound any better to me than my best Capitol stereo version of the Beatles' second album. So it was a little bit of a letdown in that sense, but it still sounds really good. So there's the Odeon label. If I can get that in there, you go. So that's kind of cool. And I think my friend Casey is probably going to offer to sell this to me. And if he does, and it's for a pretty good price, which it probably will be because he tends to give me good prices for things, I'll definitely buy it. So this will probably be officially added to my collection. And if it is, I'll let you guys know. But I think I'm going to add it to the collection. The sleeve is not in the best shape. It's kind of coming apart here, as you can see. But still kind of a cool, oddity thing to have. So Beatles' second album. And here's the back. I don't know if I showed you the back. It's the exact same as the Capitol Love version. Okay, I got two more to show you. I got a John Lennon. This is an original pressing of Mind Games, released in 1973. I didn't actually own an original pressing before. I had like the Capitol budget label one that they released. I had the new one that came out, the remastered one, and then I had like an Argentinian pressing. So this is an original. So you get the original inner sleeve there. This one's kind of weird because somebody cut out the You Are Here song. They cut it out and then they repasted it back where it belongs. And they did the same thing with One Day at a Time. Kind of weird. But at least they taped it back in there. And of course, this is on the Apple label. Mind Games. And I love Mind Games. I think Mind Games is a great record. I was reading this on the Steve Hoffman forums. reading a thread about Mind Games, and so many people were just putting it down and saying, "Oh, it's a snooze fest. It's John's most boring album." Some were even saying it's like the lowest point in the solo Beatles catalog. I just don't agree with that at all. I think this is a fine record with really good songs, and yeah, I think the production is not the best. But there's a remix version that came out in like 2002 on CD, which is fantastic, which I highly recommend. It makes the album, it changes your mind about the album completely. So anyway, this is Mind Games, an original pressing on Apple. Last but not least, I picked this up for 99 cents, and this is not an official Beatles release, but this is a band called the Silkie. I think I'm saying that right. They were like a folk band that were signed to Brian Epstein's management company, and they did a cover. This album is called "You've Got to Hide Your Love Away," and they did a cover of "You Got to Hide Your Love Away." And this actually features. It's produced by John Lennon, just the one cut, "You Gotta Hide Your Love Away." It's produced by John Lennon, and it features Paul on rhythm guitar and George on tambourine and on like percussion. He's playing like the back of an acoustic guitar, and you can really hear those parts really, really well. So I was happy to pick this up. There's the back there. All the other songs are really, really folky. They're kind of like Britain's answer to Peter, Paul, and Mary. But I definitely got this just because of the Beatle connection. And really, you don't get a lot of recordings that actually have the Beatles on them as a guest appearance from the 1960s. So I think they recorded this in '65. There's the label there. And it's the first cut on here, "You Gotta Hide Your Love Away." So, for 99 cents, can't go wrong with that. So, and as I always say, I'm happy to add this to the collection. So that's it for now. And hey, some of you might be wondering why I am no longer calling these videos Beatle Finds. I'm not calling that anymore because someone let me know, in a rather rude way, but that's okay. They let me know that Joe, me and Mr. Mayo, started that whole, whatever you call it, that title, Beatle Finds. Now, I didn't know that. I thought Beatle Finds was just like a common video type that everyone in the vinyl community would do. But upon further research, it is true. Joe is really the only one who has Beatle Finds on for his title of a certain type of video. So I apologize. I actually talked to Joe about it, and Joe is really, really cool about it, by the way. Me and Mr. Mayo is a really great guy. It didn't bother him at all. The one thing he said is that it might be confusing for when people search in the future. If they search, knowing his channel does Beatle Finds, if they search Beatle Finds on YouTube, then some of my videos will come up too. And I totally agree with him there. That's totally right. So it's my error, and I definitely don't want to be ripping anybody off. And if anything, Joe has been a major influence on me. He's one of the reasons I started making these videos at all. Just because I loved watching his videos and seeing his collection, and it really inspired me to share my collection with you, especially when I find these new Beatle finds. So anyway, I just wanted to clear that up about why from now on I'm not going to call them Beatle Finds. I might call it Beatles Stuff. I don't know. I'll figure out some type of title. If any of you have a suggestion for me, I will gladly accept it. On another note, to the person who wrote in all caps that I was ripping off Joe, and first of all, I know I wasn't ripping off Joe because I'm not ripping off Joe. Second of all, it's like I'm sure a lot of you deal with this too. People who leave negative comments, it always just amazes me how much time they've taken out of their day to just throw out such venom and just be so pissed off about it. And really, it's like, if anyone was upset about it, it would have been Joe, right? But he wasn't. But if he was, if he would have messaged me, that would have been totally cool, and we would have talked about it, whatever. But he didn't, because he's a really cool guy and laid back, and it didn't bug him at all. In fact, when I talked to him about it, he said, "Oh, I didn't realize that, but now that you say it." So this person took it upon themselves to go about it. And normally I let that stuff just fly over my head, and I don't care at all. For some reason, it did kind of bug me, this one comment. So if you're watching now, person who did that, I don't care about you. So enjoy your YouTube life. Because if you try to comment on any more of my videos, I will just delete them immediately. So congratulations. Anyway, I don't want to be too bitter because that's not fun. But I did have to get that off my chest. So I appreciate you all for putting up with that. And it's, hey, little vinyl community drama, right? It's like a soap opera around here. No, it's not. It's okay. Anyway, that's it for now, and hope you enjoyed my Beatles stuff. And we'll see you next time. All right. Take a sad song and make it better, but not in all cap locks, please. Turn your cap locks off. Turn your cap locks off.